Hi, Mom. We're back on YouTube. Who would have thought? We're famous. Well, we're going to talk today about discs. Discs and disc bulges, disc herniations, and basically why they happen. We're going to draw out a vertebra and a disc. A disc is like an ogre, right? Like Shrek. It has layers like an onion, right? Yeah. Well, and it's got inside, it's got a chamber that carries the nucleus pulposus, which is where the jello filling is. Yeah, that's where jello comes from. You may never eat jello again. But that's the properties of the tissue, and that's why we always warm the discs up. We warm the fibers up by long axis traction, which we'll talk about at another time. But we also want to warm the fluid up. It's important to understand that a lot of this is water. That when we lose disc height, we're losing water. The amount of water we should have in a disc is 88% saturation, which is 100% H2O, hydration. That's as much water as we can shove into that disc. And according to Punjabi and White, that disc is so strong, and I agree with them, that disc is so strong that you will fracture the bone before you damage the disc. What happens is it becomes weakened by losing water. In fact, from an engineering point of view, water preloads the disc. Now, if you had a piece of steel and you loaded weight onto it, it would deform according to how much weight you put on. Now, if you unload that same weight from the steel and you weld some cables to it and stretch the steel by stretching the cables, you will preload the steel. Now you put the same amount of weight on it and it will deform less. Here's the principle. Water preloads the disc. So the more water you have in it, up to that 88%, the stronger it is. So that's why it's so important to keep it pumped up, to keep water in it. When you get a downloading of the disc water,
is ready for you.
Okay.
This came fast for you. About Rachel.
When you lose water, it unloads the disc and makes it susceptible to injury. But when you lose water from the disc, it changes the shape. So let's say it's now this big. Well, it's like losing air on your tire of your car. It's going to bulge out. That's what's going to happen. It always does that. Well, it also, because we've lost water, it unloads it and makes it susceptible to fissures or a tearing of the fibers, and it can create an outpouching like a blister with nuclear material in it here, and we call that a herniation. And we always say, oh, we got to do surgery for that. Well, you know, there are times to do surgery, and I'm not the guy who says no to surgery, but only 2% of back surgeries actually work according to the AHCPR guidelines, which was a study done by our federal government. And so you better be sparing with those, and especially since they're $162,000 a pop now. So, but if we can take and pump water into it, we can take this disc, even though it's got a herniation, pump it back up, and notice how it may get it so that it doesn't put pressure on the nerves or on the spinal cord itself. That's what we're talking about, is pumping that disc back up.